a former sportsbook insider just broke his silence and revealed something that could change the way you bet on NFL games forever. This is not theory. This is not guesswork. This is what actually happens behind the curtain at the biggest sports books in the country, and the people who run those books do not want you hearing any of it. My name is not important. What is important is that I spent 8 years inside one of the largest sports books in Las Vegas, and every single week I watch the same thing happen. Sharp bettors, the ones who actually make money doing this, would move before the lines changed. They knew something we did not. Or rather, they knew something we did know, but never talked about out loud. By the end of this video, you're going to have 10 specific signs that sharps look for before they place their NFL bets. These are not secret codes or magic tricks. They are patterns. Real, repeatable patterns that play out week after week during the NFL season. And most bettors walk right past them without ever noticing. I watched a guy named Marcus do it every single Sunday. He would show up at the sportsbook early before most people even had their coffee. He would not rush. He would not shout or make a scene. He would just sit, watch, and wait. And then, like clockwork, he would place his bets. Calm, quiet, confident. And he would win. Not every single time, but enough times that the book started paying very close attention to him. I watched him turn a few $1,000s into something much, much bigger over the course of just one NFL season. And the whole time, the average bettor sitting right next to him had no idea what Marcus was actually doing. They thought he was just getting lucky. He was not getting lucky. He was reading signs that most people cannot even see. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Sign number 7 on this list is the one that really separates the sharps from everyone else. And when I first learned about it, I actually did not believe it worked. But after watching it play out dozens of times from inside the sportsbook, I had to change my mind. It is that good. And it is that simple. But we are going to get to that in a few minutes, because we need to start at the beginning. Before you can spot what the sharps are doing, you need to understand one thing first. The sportsbooks are not your friend. They are a business. And every single line they set is designed to make them money. Once you truly get that, everything else starts to make sense. So the real question is this: how do the sharps actually see what is coming before anyone else does? Let's start with sign number 1, and this one is so basic that most bettors skip right past it. It is called early line movement. Here's what that means. When the sportsbook first puts up a line on an NFL game, that is the opening line. But within the first few hours, that line starts to move. Sometimes it moves a little, sometimes it moves a lot. And the direction it moves tells you everything. I watched a bettor named Dave catch this one over and over again. One Sunday morning, the Chiefs were set as 3-point favorites against the Ravens. By the time most people sat down to look at their phones, that line had already moved to Chiefs -5. Dave saw that shift happen in real time. He knew exactly what it meant. Sharp money was coming in on the Chiefs. The books were forced to move the line to protect themselves. Dave jumped on it, and by the end of the day, he walked away up big. The key here is timing. You have to catch the move early. If you wait until everyone is talking about it, you are already too late. That is the first thing sharps understand. Now, sign number 2 builds right on top of that. This one is called the reverse line movement. And this is where it gets really interesting. Sometimes a line moves in a direction that makes 0 sense based on where the public money is going. Let's say 60% of bettors are putting money on the Cowboys. Normally the line should move in favor of the Cowboys, but instead the line moves the other way. That is a massive red flag. That means the sharp money is going in the opposite direction, and it is big enough to push the line against the crowd. I watched this happen at least twice every single NFL season. Both times the sharp side won. Sign number 3 is something I called the quiet spike. This is when betting volume on a game suddenly jumps way up, but nobody is really talking about it. No big headlines, no injury news, nothing on the surface looks different. But the money is pouring in. That usually means someone who really knows something is placing a big bet, and they do not want the whole world to know about it. Before I get into sign number 4, I want to pause for a second. If this kind of insider information is something you want more of, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me what your biggest sports bet win was ever. I love hearing those stories. Now, sign number 4 is called the steam move. A steam move is when the line starts shifting fast and hard all at once, like a door slamming open. It is not a slow creep, it is a rush. And when you see a steam move on an NFL game, it almost always means a sharp syndicate, which is a group of big bettors working together, has just dumped a massive amount of money on one side. I watched one steam move swing a line by 4 full points in less than 30 minutes. 4 points. That is huge in NFL betting. And the side that caused that move won the game. Sign number 5 is where things start to get even sharper. But that one connects directly to sign number 7, the big one we teased earlier. So hold tight. Sign number 5, line shopping discrepancies. This is when the same game has noticeably different lines across multiple sports books. If the Chiefs are -3 at one book, but -4.5 at another, sharps will immediately jump on the better number. This happens when one sports book hasn't caught up to sharp action that already hit other books. I watched Marcus check at least 3 different books before placing any bet. He wasn't just looking for the best price, he was looking for books that were slow to adjust. When he found a 2-point difference on the same game, he knew exactly which side the sharp money was really on. Sign number 6, mid-week line freeze. This is when a line opens on Sunday night or Monday, moves early in the week, and then suddenly stops moving completely by Wednesday or Thursday, even though betting continues. That freeze means the sharps got their bets in early and now the book has balanced their risk. The line is set where the sharps wanted it. When I saw a line freeze midweek on a game getting heavy public action but no movement, that told me the sharp position was already locked in and the public was just filling the other side. Sign number 7, and this is the big one. This is the sign that I said earlier most people get completely backwards. It is called the sharp fade. Here's how it works. Most bettors think that when sharp money comes in on one side, you should always follow it. And most of the time that is true. But every now and then, the sharps will load up on one side early, move the line hard, and then quietly come back and bet the other side at the new number. They baited the public into following them, and then they flipped. I watched a guy named Ray do this 3 times in one season. The first time it happened, I almost missed it. The line moved so fast in the Bengals that everyone in the book was jumping on them. But then about 2 hours later, Ray walked back in, sat down, and calmly put a big bet on the other team at the new line. He did not say a word to anyone, he just smiled and walked out. The Bengals lost by 10. Ray had just made money on both sides of that bet. That is the kind of thinking that separates the real sharps from everyone else. Sign number 8 is called the injury timing play. And this one cost a guy named Greg everything. Greg was a casual bettor who thought he had found a shortcut. Whenever a big injury was announced, he would immediately bet against that team. Made sense on the surface, but what Greg did not understand is that sharps already knew about those injuries long before the news came out. By the time Greg placed his bet, the line had already moved to account for the injury. He was always too late. Over the course of one NFL season, Greg lost over $12,000 chasing injuries that the market had already priced in. He thought he was being smart. He was actually just feeding the sharps. Sign number 9 is what insiders call the ringer game. This is when a matchup looks completely one-sided on paper, but the sharp money is quiet. No big moves, no steam, just silence. And that silence is the sign itself. When the sharps go quiet on a game that everyone expects to be a blowout, it usually means the underdog has a real shot. I watched this play out 4 times last season. 3 of those 4 times the underdog either won or covered. The silence was louder than any line move could ever be. And now we are at the final sign. Sign number 10. This is the one that ties everything together, and it is the single most powerful signal I ever saw inside that sportsbook. But first you need to understand why it works. Sign number 10 is called the closing line value play. And this is the one that every single sharp bettor I ever watched uses every single week without fail. Here's the idea. The best bettors in the world do not just care about picking the right side, they care about the price they get. Closing line value means you placed your bet at a better number than where the line closed right before the game started. If you can do that consistently, you are already ahead of most bettors in the world. I watched Marcus do this every single Sunday. Remember him from the beginning of this video? The quiet guy who would sit and watch before he placed his bets. This was his secret. He would wait. He would study the early movement, he would watch for the steam moves and the reverse line movements and the quiet spikes. And then he would strike at exactly the right moment to lock in the best possible number. One week he bet the Packers at -2.5. By the time the game kicked off, the line had moved to -4. He had just locked in a full 1.5 of value. Over an entire season, that kind of edge adds up to thousands of dollars. That is not luck. That is skill. And it is the reason why the sportsbooks hate the sharps. Now, here is the truth that ties all 10 signs together. None of these signs work on their own. The real sharps do not just look for one signal, they stack them. When early line movement lines up with a quiet spike and the closing line value is there too, that is when Marcus would strike. That is when the money would move. That is when the wins would come. The average bettor looks at one thing and hopes for the best. The sharp bettor looks at everything at once and waits for the moment when it all lines up. That is the difference. So the next time you are about to place an NFL bet, slow down. Do not just pick a team because you like them or because some guy on television told you they were going to win. Watch the lines, watch the money, watch the silence. The signs are there every single week. You just have to know what to look for. If you made it this far, you now have something most bettors will never have. So hit subscribe and turn on your notifications because I have a lot more of this kind of insider information coming. And drop a comment below and tell me which of these 10 signs surprised you the most. I want to hear from you.